So hello guys, what's up? This is Shark Talking. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about two different banners. The first one being Ferdinand, Katarina, and Leonid covering for the first anniversary Ferdinand, and the other banner has Subier, Julian, and Sophia covering up for the first anniversary in Julian's banner. Well, those two banners are not so good in my opinion, and I'll be explaining why. It really depends on the characters that you have in your box, and let's just take something out of the window first. This banner has a guarantee on the fourth pool, but it's not a guarantee from the banner. It's an SS guarantee. You have 40% chance of getting someone from the banner and 60% chance of getting a character from launch. Yes, only old styles. You don't even have a chance of getting some of the recent platinums. And then what you have is 5-step pools. The guarantee comes from the fourth. The fifth one is free. This is the paid banner. Remember, this time you have to use 9,000 gems to go to the last pool. You can do this 3 times if you want. And then you can summon with 3 gems with the same standard system. You have to summon 15 multis in order to just get the pity. Yes. So what is this banner? This banner is different in global because Ferdinand was removed from Matriarch's banner and given a new role. The thing is, in JP, Ferdinand was extremely popular because of how strong he was. He is, because he's still considered strong right now. Then there is Katarina, that introduced a different mechanic, and Leonid, that was a special hair character with some interesting mechanics, but I don't think that he has a long-term appeal. Let's click here on some of the details so we can understand this banner before we go to the other one, and then let's click on style, starting with Ferdinand. The reason why this guy is good is because he is a self-buff stackable character that can also do multi-hit with 2 elements. That's a very interesting design. The first attack is a free attack when you fully awaken. It's just a E single target attack with a free buff to SDR. So he gets stronger when he attacks for free. That's nice because his best attack is the second. It's not costly, it's only 7 VP. Starry Rush, it's just like using this first attack more than once. You can attack between 2 to 4 times, but this one does not give a buff. I'm just explaining the overall damage. And the good thing is that it carries now 2 elements, slash and pierce. Imagine attacking 4 times. That is amazing. Although you kind of rely on RNG, even if you hit for 2 times, you are already covering up for the BP cost of the skill. If you hit for 4 times, this is amazing. The good thing is that if you are playing with him for, Final Island, you can retreat till you get the number of hits you want. That is if you are into this type of things. But by itself, it's a very powerful attack because you are also stacking STR, meaning that he gets stronger every turn and the skill as well. Starry Rush is one of the best single target attacks in the game, and I'm meaning, yeah, very powerful combination in a character that can already get stronger by itself. Let me use Starry Rush so you guys can see the animation. This attack here has a good animation, you see? Very fast. And then we have the last one, Star String. Star String is a skill that I don't really understand the meaning of it. I really don't. Because it has Slash and Pierce. It's okay, it's the same combination. Ferdinand is a specialist on Slash and Pierce. His future styles are also about both elements. But then you attack with A power. It's okay, most of the AoE attacks with high BP cost have around B or A. Most B, sometimes A, the best character has A damage. He loses 15% of his own STR when he does this move. But then, remember about something. Ferdinand should not be using this skill at all unless you are farming on specific setups. He's better for the second skill. If you are using him on boss fights, you are likely to be using Starry Rush and Gleaming Slash. Star String is only for farming, and when you finish a wave when you're farming, doesn't matter if you get a buff or a debuff, because it gets removed on the next wave. So the special effect of this is, well, useless. Good, because it's bad. And then let's give a look on his passives. As you can see, he gets a first one that is a counter. This guy got a buff in global. He's not exactly a tank, but he has 66% increase on endurance. He also has something for will. And when he gets directly attacked, that means the attack from your enemy has to be direct. He will evade the attack with 40% chances and counter-attack with Gleaming Slash. Gleaming Slash is the first skill that gives himself a self-buff. Nice, because he really wants to keep buffing himself. That's all about this guy. STR Surge 3 is the second passive, and this one also increases his own STR when he's hitting a weak point. It's super easy to hit a weak point with him because he attacks with 2 elements, Slash and Pierce, like I said, the second skill. If he is attacking an enemy that is weak to Slash when he's countering, he will buff himself again. You know? Yeah, because Gleaming Light counters with Gleaming Slash. If the enemy is weak against Gleaming Slash, he buffs himself twice when countering. That's amazing. This guy just keeps getting better and better with buffs. And also, for Pierce, if you are using Stereo Rush, if the enemy is weak against Pierce or Slash, it also buffs himself. The buff is good, 20%, and it can be used in boss fights, just easy. He gets just stronger. He can be comparable to, you know, Teacher Cordelia that has a similar thing. Other character that has a similar thing is Global Exclusive Monica. Although Global Exclusive Monica didn't have the status, at least Cordelia has. She also self-heals. They are very similar when you compare, but Ferdinand is even better because he's not just Pierce, he's Slash Pierce and buffs himself even faster, but he does not self-heal. So you have to compare the different things, and they can still be used together in boss fights. They are on top of the game. And then you have Fired Up 4. Fired Up 4 increases damage by 15%. This guy here has a very interesting design, in my opinion. In JP, he will never counter with Gleaming Slash, only with normal attacks, so he will only trigger STR Surge, but now he can self-buff 2 times when he counters. But guys, you just have to remember that in boss fights, when you have AoE attacks, they are mostly just indirect attacks. He will hardly ever evade unless the attack is directly against him. If you are using like Tiger Shark formations or Lure formations that increases the aggro to some specific character in your setup, he will not be evading too much. Just remember about that. Even though you think that he can draw enemy attacks by himself to try to stack, I don't think it works so well. You should try to ignore him as a tank and just think about it as a circumstantial thing. Ferdinand is extremely good, I think. He is one of the best attackers with double elements that we have. He keeps attacking with good hates. If you are using him with Nawal's Daughter, sometimes he will just be attacking with Stereo Rush every 2 turns, so Gleaming Slash and Stereo Rush, Gleaming Slash and Stereo Rush. That means that he's just stacking himself and dealing more and more damage. I think this is one of the best ways to deal with bosses, constant damage. Is Ferdinand good? Of course, one of the best characters for the meantime for Slash and Pierce. Do you really need him? Depends. Do you have any? Do you have Perfector Ocelos? If you have both, you kinda can keep up with them and wait for a rerun of Ferdinand. Yeah, his last spy on GP also has the same attack called Stereo Rush, but this one is better because of stacking STR. You will have 3 different versions of Ferdinand in the future. So that was Ferdinand. Let's talk about another character called Katarina. Katarina has way too many different styles in Global. She has a Global exclusive version, and now she has this one called Awaken. This style here has some gimmicks that were introduced with her and kinda happen in some other characters, but the way that Katarina works is debatable. The first attack is Jumping Slash. This attack here is very cheap, but it uses 5 VP. If you really want to use this, you can use it 3 times in a row, because it gets down to 5 if fully awakened. The damage is not so good. If she's using this, it means that you are using her in a stage with not many enemies and using other characters with similar skill rotation. I don't think it's so good. Now Katarina's second attack is called Blizzard. This is a single target attack with both slash and code properties. It's a good combination. We don't have many characters that use STR and produce elemental damage. We have Galahad, he's an AoE specialist, so he does not give much damage for single target, boss fights and things like that. So Katarina has something special here. She has an attack that also can inflict medium. The problem is just that the damage is not so high. It's only S power. The good thing, you can get this to 8 BP, and you can use it in a 3-turn rotation for 2 times, like turn 2 and 3 or turn 1 and 3. That's good enough for good farming setups, but the damage is not so high, like I said. The reason why it's not so high is because, well, this skill has a gimmick. After you use it, you have 25% chance of triggering Scattered Petals. Yeah, but only on rank 1, because this relies on a passive. Look, one of the most beautiful attacks in the game. Scattered Petals is very powerful. It's a triple S damage attack that's not weak. It's around the medium high type of triple S damage. It's 15 BP, so you can only reduce this 12. She will not be able to use this on turn 1 by herself. Only if you use Blizzard and you have luck to get it triggered with 25% chances. So that's a bad thing because I don't think it's good to rely on a character that has this type of thing by using 8 BP. You have to wait till you have 8 BP to use it again, and you have only 25% chance. Was it 50% or was it something different, like, you know, a stacking thing that you need to use like 3 times and then it unleashes by itself? No, it's a full gimmick. It's a chase. After you use Blizzard, 25% chance of watching Scattered Petals. And this attack here is good, but is it good enough if you're thinking about facing bosses and you want that to happen? It doesn't happen, so you may even lose your chance to kill the boss. I don't like this type of strategy. It was kinda changed around the time of release. Some characters have it with different setups. Like, there is an Ultra Deluxe Galahad that can use his best attack with sheep attacks. He can use the first skill of himself, like say it's a sheep attack, and every time he uses any of the 3 different attacks, he has a chance of following up with a chase attack that is Winter Storm. That's a very powerful attack, but it's AoE. But just trying to compare how they will change this mechanic in the future. Katarina was one of the first to have this, so that's why it's so hard to use it. Okay, so now for passes, we have this first one being the one that triggers Scattered Petals after using Blizzard. The bad thing is that you can only use this on rank 1. Doesn't matter if you are leveling up Scattered Petals, because every time that she uses as a chase attack, it will be used on rank 1, because it relies on a passive. We talked about this before in, I think, yeah, Urpina Ultra Deluxe banner. She doesn't have this. She uses a follow-up that relies on the skill itself and not on a passive. That's why it's stronger. Remember when I said that they will change how this type of mechanic works to make it better? Well, not for Katarina. Then we have Weak Point Focus for 15% increase in damage, and for the 5 for 20% increase in damage. Weak Point Focus relies on attacking a weak target, and for the 5 is active all the time. So you have 35% increase in most times. Blizzard and Scattered Petals are a good combination because it's double elements, so you'll be hitting for weaknesses most of the time. But the real application of this has 2 different scenarios. One, you have to face a boss that's weak to either slash or cold and you want to do very high damage on turn 1. Then you have to retreat if it doesn't apply, and you try again till it lands. 2, you have to use Katarina in Final Island, because you only need to beat it once. It's okay to retreat sometimes to get the highest damage and highest points. Well, those are the 2 scenarios where you'll be using this. Sadly, it's not for farming. It's not made for boss fights with reliable, long fights. But if you want to start with higher damage or want to give higher damage on Final Island and you don't mind retreat, that's how you use this version of Katarina. She gets a future style that's better for single target damage, but does not carry code for single targets, only for AoE. So this is the only chance for this type of attack. But then if you want to wait, the Scattered Petals will also appear in a future version of Grey that is Platinum. Very far, more than 6 months I think, but that's good to know. Now there's Leonid, and Leonid is not exactly bad, he's good, just kinda released it on a bad time. The first attack is Ohor. It's a spell. It's a spell that it gives a chance to inflict confusion. High chance, he is not a spellcaster, so his intelligence is not that high, but it's high enough to probably hit for confusion if you get him maxed. It's still very niche to use this type of stuff because it's only used on Mano. And then we have the second one, called Bloody Palm. This attack, I think it may be the best one of him, depending on the situations. Bloody Palm is both blunt and shadow, so you have 2 elements coverage. The power is A, the type of power that we want with 6 BP. He will be able to use this on turn 1, then turn 2. He will skip turn 3 and use it again on turn 4. That's good because Ohor is a supportive spell. He will never use that, so you can just rely on him using Bloody Palm as long as you want. Then you can also inherit Submission if you want and use it in the same way. He just becomes a submission machine, like he was already, but it's just that this one is better than his past Platinum style. The shadow coverage is the best part because we kinda need more shadow damage dealers, but blunt we don't. We really don't need more blunt damage dealers, and if you have Emilia from Courageous Banner, she deals way more damage with 7 BP. Although she cannot use it on turn 1 and turn 2 unless you use her Bride version, you may find some alternatives if you want to skip him. The last attack is very powerful, is Niagara Buster. This attack here has an increased damage against fishes, I think, and Yes, fishes and aquatic enemies. Double S power, kind of close to triple S, very close. It's not triple S, but very close. The problem is just that it's 10 BP, so for cycling it's not so good, but it can be used for farming if you need a very powerful attack on turn 1 or turn 2. The good thing is that he can also follow up with Bloody Palm later, because 10 plus 6 is enough for a 3 turns rotation, so he's not bad for configurations where you need single target. But only for that. He also can inflict stun with this because he has a good enough intelligence. He will be landing stun sometimes. Not that you need this for farming, but it's an interesting touch. Now about passives, Leonid has some good things, like the first one is amazing. Power Link is a passive that makes him a situational healer. He has a 25% chance of healing himself and a random ally. That's a very good thing because you don't use LP. It's a weak but also good heal that can help you in some situations against boss fights. The problem is that Leonid is not exactly made for boss fighting. The heal should be around 400 for your character and your random ally, depending on the charisma, but usually around that. Then, fired up 4, it's 15% increase in damage. The problem with Leonid lies on the last one. The problem and also the benefit. Engage 3 gives him 30% increase in damage, but only for the first turn on a new round. Well, it gives him good damage for farming. Very good damage, but this is useless in boss fights. Unless you start with Niagara Buster and you use all your BP, you will not have any advantage of this. Having weakness advantage will be way better because it keeps helping him deal more damage. Doesn't matter if you get 30% increase in damage if it's only for 1 turn. And that kind of clashes with his design of being a situational healer, because situational healer is for boss fights. Third passive is not. So that's why I think that he has some problems with his own design, although he's not bad at all. It's just that he comes in a moment that we already have way too many blunt damage dealers and makes him a little more situational for farming. So, do I think that this banner is worth summoning for at this price? No. The reason is just that Katarina is niche and gimmick. Leonid has way too much competition. If you really desperately need shadow damage, he could be an idea. Ferdinand is amazing. He still is relevant even to this day in JP, but if you have 80 and Perfector Acelus, you can wait for his return with characters that are more desirable besides him. That's my opinion on this banner. And then we have the other banner, Subier, Julian, and Sophia. And we were talking about Sophia recently because of Jorg, and now Sophia is here. I don't know why. It makes not much sense. I know that Julian was supposed to be here. The same can be said for Subier. And I think that they will be releasing another banner with Liz, Nawal's daughter, and Sarah. The game is hinting on this return. I'm not entirely sure, guys. It's speculation, so if you want to wait or not, it's on you. But this banner has a lot of competition when you consider the 3 different characters. Sophia is an old design. Julian is the only one that still matters here for a long time. Subier is good, but he will also face competition in some months, and he's too slow for farming setups, although he's not good by design of his own skills or passives. Let's check then quickly. Julian is still best cover tank in the game, but he faces competition with Ren, a character that was released with a Courageous banner. Ren is weaker cover tank, but he can debuff in a fight. Sometimes giving a STR debuff makes it better than just using Julian. He has attack and defend. The first skill is supportive in damage type. You give D damage in 3 BP codes, so he can use it all the time, and has a guard up effect medium for 2 turns, so he has to use this every 2 turns. The good thing is that it's only 3 BP, you always have PP available. Then we have Mirage Blade is an AoE attack that really doesn't need to be used with him. He's not for farming and not for AoE damage. Then there is Supernova. Supernova is a nuke attack, but, well, his damage not so good, but if you need overdrive and Julian has way too much BP, why not? Remember, he can use attack and defend every 2 turns, so he will be stacking. You can use attack and defend, normal attack, and then you save 3 BP, and then when you want, you can use Supernova just to give a little extra damage. Supernova is a double S damage attack with 9 BP costs when you awaken. Nothing extraordinary, just, well, good for overdrive. And then Julian is a cover tank. He has very nice passives. The most important one is Princess Guard. He has a 40% chances of taking damage instead of 1 ally on your setup. What happens when an enemy uses an AoE attack? Means that he will just cover someone and take the damage for himself, and this specific character will not receive damage. That is good because he already has a very high will and endurance, and he also has ways to decrease incoming damage with his other two passives, meaning that the damage that he receives is way lower than that other character will receive. So the two passives are Iron Wall Defense 4, that reduces damage by 25% at all times, and that stacks with Attack and Defend. And the other one's Rock Solid, decreases damage by 50% on turn 1. So first turn he barely receives any damage, but that is only used for farming setups where you want Julian to protect your allies that are dying too much. That gives you a safer results for farming, but then it's another character that you have to use, so you lose his lot, but you increase your survival. If it's worth or not depends on you. If you have fast attackers, you barely need any resistance because the enemies won't even attack you. That's why Julian stays relevant more for boss fights than for farming. But if you're not a hardcore player, Julian may help you in farming even to this day. Okay, so this was Julian. Then there is Sophia, and Sophia was a failed design. I don't know what they did in Global. The first attack is a blunt damage and heal attack that uses 5 BP. If you compare her to Teacher Cordelia, you see that she uses more BP, has a lower damage output, the healing is around the same. It's okay, but both characters are limited, that's why we are comparing. Then she has Twin Strike, a good attack, but not that good because of her very low STR. She has very low STR for a limited style. They decreased her STR even further by giving her more intelligence in Global. I don't know why they did this. Then she has Grant's Land, a skill that has no reason to exist. She's not a nuker and she has a nuke attack for AoE. Why? Don't ask me, ask the devs. And that's why when you look on her skills, doesn't make much sense how she was designed. She's not that supportive, she can only heal herself. But then all her passives are around support. The first one is that when our allies are still alive, she reduces the incoming damage by 10%. That is good, it's just like giving a bait all stone to everyone, an extra one. The bad thing is that she does not help the squad survive more, unless you are relying on Dare to Hope 2, a passive that gives a heal to the whole squad when she dies, but she can only heal people that are alive, so she needs to stay on the front. She can be used as a zombie tank that every time that she dies, she heals. That's the same thing that we already had with the original Sophia. Nothing new, but still a very good passive. Then the last one is Link of Gallantry, and then the last skill is Link of Gallantry. She gives herself and a random ally an offensive buff. Only one offensive buff. It's 15% increasing damage. She can even self-buff 2 times. Her damage is not so good, so when she gets this, it still doesn't make her a damage dealer. We already have a character, Cotton, that is a self-heal tank that gives 2 buffs. One offensive and another defensive, and it lasts for 2 turns. So he is way better on this than Sophia. And for the first passive that reduces incoming damage, we have Jorg with double the reduction. Jorg has 20% decreasing damage. You can stack both, like I said in my past video, but do you really need the extra 10% with a character that doesn't offer so much? Jorg offers more in the battlefield than even Sophia, because Jorg can heal, she cannot. She will have to rely on inheritance to get the healing, but then the first Sophia could heal and debuff with Bone Crusher. Now this one doesn't have this. She needed a debuff or some more supportive things to keep her relevant. I got her, tried to use her many times, and I just didn't saw the potential of the character. I can see myself using Jorg more often. I do have this version of Sophia, but instead of bringing Sophia, I'll be bringing Cotton because he self-heals cheaper. He can negate damage when he counters, and not only that, the other good thing is that he also gives 2 different buffs, an offensive and a defensive one. Gives more damage, can survive better, has better agility, and is better to be used in a Tiger Shark formation. And now let me give a look on Subier. The first attack is Ice Lance, it's a row attack. Guys, how many times we see enemies aligned in a row? Not many, it's even less common than Column. The damage is only D, 4 BP, not so bad. This skill is just kind of related to also the second, Brush Stroke. That is just a stronger version of the first attack. Still Pierce and Cold. But B power this time, you can get this to 8, so you can use Brush Stroke once, and Ice Lance twice, in a stage that has enemies aligned in a row 3 times in a row. I don't know why, but the developers don't give us this type of stage, so it's more about the idea of using it than really using it. Then we have Maelstrom. This skill is insane, super ultra powerful. It's only cold this time, it's not Pierce, it's S power, 16 BP. There is Maelstrom and there is also Hailstrom. Those 2 different attacks that are AoE. This one here is based on spear damage, so you need STR, and gives more damage, S damage instead of A. But the problem is just that our Subier doesn't have much agility. It's actually very bad. His agility and dexterity are bad. And then if you want to use this in farming scenarios, you will only be using this like one of your last characters. That brings us a problem. That we have way too many fast attackers right now, or just characters with high agility, and they may kill the enemy before Subier even attacks. Unless you want to give him more agility with formations like Sigmoid. In Sigmoid, he operates a little better than with Rainbow Rangers, where he just fails to even get a turn. So, for his abilities, we have a chance to recover BP, that is 25, and then 2 passives for damage. Weak Point Focus 3 means 15% increase in damage, and Fired Up 4, another 15. So 30% when hitting an enemy weaknesses. It's good enough to increase the damage potential, but like I said, his problem is more about his agility and the difficulty to use his first skills. Is Subier bad? No, he's just average in this time. The same can be said for Sophia. Bad? No, just average. Works with Jorg? Yes, but do you really need that extra 10% decrease with a character that may not be the best in boss fights? I don't know, it really depends on you. The problem is the price. Guys, we don't have any discount on this banner. Only with paid jewels. You have this 3-step that really doesn't make much sense for me. It's 6,000 paid jewels, the same steps that we used in paid banners, now with a returning banner. Well, yeah, I think no one should be summoning on this banner unless they really like or want to play with these characters. Julian is a different type of tank, but if you have Ren, you really don't need Julian. If you don't have any type of tank, it's okay to summon for Julian, but with this common price, we can summon for characters that are way better, like Joe, like Matriarch. They are safe investments. And let's talk again about this older banner. Is worth summoning here? Well, if you have a plethora of gens and you really want Ferdinand, it's okay. Go, summon for Ferdinand, he stays relevant. Leonid will still be good for inheritance of the second skill, and Katarina is niche. You can use her in that specific combinations where I told you. But in my opinion, both banners are skippable to most players. And especially because of the momentum. Right now we got way too many good banners non-stop to receive a banner with low value. So I suggest most people to skip and save gens, wait for more banners. Remember that on 24 of this month we received the first anniversary event because we are still on the pre-anniversary. So saving up is a more interesting idea. Okay, thanks so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't. If you want to support the channel, you can use here the links on the description of the video. I need your help to make this channel survive. We see each other on the next one. Bye.